There's an ongoing debate, the answer to which is so important that if you get it wrong, it could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in your retirement, and if you get it right, you could be hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead. In this video, we analyze the popular idea, should you pay off your debt before you start investing for retirement? Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
There are two ends to this debate. On one end, you have the Dave Ramsey school that says you should pay off all debt except for mortgage debt before saving for retirement. And even then, you should pay down your mortgage as quickly as possible. Then there's the Ray Dalio school. Ray Dalio is the founder of Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund, and he says that debt should be used, or can be used anyway, to increase the return on your investments. And he's been very successful at it. So which is it? They can't both be true, right? Let me give you the framework so that you can figure this out for your specific situation. First, both the Dave school and the Ray school would agree on one thing. I'm pretty confident. And that is, if you have credit card debt, you should pay that off before investing for retirement in most cases. Now, I say in most cases because there's one circumstance where that might not be the case. We'll cover that off a little bit later. In virtually all cases, you can't achieve the same performance as a credit card, 18, 19, 20, 21%, consistently anyway, and credit card debt is consistent. So you are a net loser when you have a credit card balance outstanding, in most cases. Now, getting that out of the way was important to talk about the next piece, and that is the universal rule, which turns out not to be universal at all. The universal rule is that there's good debt and bad debt. Good debt is debt that you incur to make more money, i.e. the Ray Dalio school, and bad debt is debt that you just incur because you go on a spending spree or you have no other option, so you put it on your credit card, but it doesn't increase in value. You're not spending money to make more money. That's called bad debt. In Ray Dalio's case, taking out a loan for 6% and investing it in the markets and getting 10 or 11 or 12% is good debt because he's making money on that money. The same could be said of a property investor who takes out a 6% loan on a property and gets 10% back in terms of cash flow. You get the point. And just finishing this thought, if you could for sure take out a 6% loan and always get 10% back, you should do that all day, every single day, because you have a 4% cash flow machine. But it's not certain. And Robert Kiyosaki, as an example, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has said that he has $1.2 billion in loans outstanding financing his investments. But here's the thing about this. In order to be the next Ray Dalio or Robert Kiyosaki or Warren Buffett or whoever is using the leverage to make money on the money, you need to have specialized knowledge. And I mean specialized knowledge, not just knowledge that somebody else has by reading the same book. You need to actually know the industry that you're investing in thoroughly. And many people, I will even say most people, mistake luck for knowledge, being in the right place at the right time for knowledge. Now, how do I know? Well, in 1999, I was finishing business school at the Kellogg Business School at Northwestern University, and I was talking with someone whose name was Steve. Steve had recently quit his job as a gas station attendant, and he was a professional investor. That's what he called himself. And he financed his investments with his credit cards. And he said, you know what? I'm okay to pay 18% because I'm getting 20, 25, 30, 50, 100, 200% on my investments. And he was invested in, and I still remember the names of these because at the time I thought, this sounds pretty interesting, Pet.com, Webvan, and Cosmo.com. Pet.com was an online pet supply store. Sounds like it would be a really good investment today simply because you've got the URL. But at the time, URLs aren't as popular as they are today. And the business failed because they couldn't figure out how to transport really heavy dog food from one place to another and not lose money. Webvan was an online grocery store where you could buy your groceries online, much like you can do now at very specific grocery stores. But Webvan was a national retailer, and they couldn't get the infrastructure right. And so they had delays, they had products that were missing, they had products that weren't available that people paid for, a lot of issues. And eventually Webvan went out of business. And then there was Cosmo.com. Cosmo sort of was like the predecessor to Amazon. except for they promised 1 hour delivery on a whole host of items that they had in inventory. The problem was that's pretty impossible to hit 1 hour from the time you click the buy button to the time it arrives at your front door. They hadn't really thought that through. So Steve maxes out his credit card, buys these 3 investments, then buys more, because when you have a successful investment, you can ask the brokerage firm to give you what's called leverage, and you can borrow on the growth in your account. So he bought more, and he got really addicted to this being right cycle, because every time he put down money, he kept making more money. So he got a second credit card and did the same thing, got a third credit card and did the same thing. And then eventually he was in a position where he had to pay his credit card bills. So he floated. He would take one credit card's zero interest opportunity, write a check to the other credit card, and pay it off. And he had 2 or 3 of these credit cards that were financing his investments, and 2 or 3 of these credit cards which were financing his credit cards. As we all know, it ended badly. Steve lost everything. And the last thing I heard, which was in 2003, 2004, he was back at the gas station working where he was working before. And just as an aside, at that same time, the world was getting drunk on debt. There was almost an unlimited amount of debt out there, and people were buying 2 or 3 or 4 houses at a time with zero down. That was what was happening at the time. It was pre-global financial crisis. It was pre-Great Recession. It was a situation that everybody thought was going to continue on forever, but nothing lasts forever. So Ray's strategy is right for Ray. He knows the risks. He's built a business around managing risks. And because of that, he has specialized knowledge that other people might not have, but it's probably not right for you. Now, with that in mind, the next category is student loan debt. Now, this is a fuzzy category because up until recently, student loan debt was considered good debt. You would take out this debt and you would improve your earnings potential. But right now, colleges have been in the crosshairs because college costs have gone through the roof. In fact, on page 38 of my book, The Busy Adult's Guide to Making College Happen, I show that having a college degree pays on average 72% more over someone's lifetime than not having a college degree. And the difference is in the high 100,000s or even in the millions, depending on the industry in which you choose to work. Now in 2025, there's some noise about colleges. That noise is that costs have gone through the roof, and there's some truth to that. Most colleges, by definition, have more potential customers than they do product to sell the customers. Look at Harvard, for example. Harvard accepts 3.6% of the applicants in its undergraduate program. Harvard's total cost, by the way, is $81,383 per year with tuition, room, and board. It's pretty expensive. Yet, they turn away 96.4% of the people who will apply to Harvard. In the 1983-84 school year, which a lot of people watching this video was the year that approximately when they graduated from high school, give or take 5 years, the tuition at Harvard was about $14,000. $14,700, I believe, is the total cost of tuition, room, and board. So it's gone up pretty significantly, and inflation has not moved up that fast. So what that means is that people who take out student loans to finance their college oftentimes take out really big student loans, $80,000 a year at Harvard. Other colleges aren't Harvard, but if you're paying out-of-state tuition, it's not going to be that much less. So you or your children have made the decision to go to college, and now you have to pay off that student loan. Do you pay it off all at one time before you start investing, or do you pay it off over a period of time? Well, it depends. One is the interest rate. The second is the amount. Interest rates are pretty low on student loans right now, and the amount probably is quite large. Both of those suggest that it's going to take a long time to pay off that student loan, particularly if you're financing out-of-state tuition for 4 years and you're the only one who paid for that tuition. Should you wait 5, 10, 15 years to pay off your student loan before you actually start investing in your future? Well, on the one hand, you have a guaranteed return by paying off that student loan. What do I mean by that? You're guaranteed not to pay that in terms of your own cash flow. You can use that money for other things. So that suggests that you might want to pay it off. The next is financial stress. Having a large student loan balance is extremely stressful. And if it looks like you're going to have to pay it off for 20 plus years. Some student loans go for 30 years. That can weigh on you in terms of the stress on your mind, your wear and tear on your body, a lot of things. The negatives are lost time in the market. And if you have to wait 10 years before you start investing in the market, most people will tell you that is the most crucial time to get money into the market. The second is missing an employer match. If you have a 401k, for example, your 401k oftentimes gets a match from your employer. Sometimes those matches are very, very significant. My previous employer had a 25% match. Now it's not 50% or 100%, but it does change the analytics of everything we're talking about if all of a sudden you get an additional 25% on the value of your assets. So the answer to this question will depend on what the interest rate is on your loan and how comfortable you are with starting late investing for retirement. Unlike credit card debt, which is pretty clear, student loan debt does have a match, and that match is you're probably earning more income, so that makes it quote unquote good debt. Just as an aside, most people take a hybrid approach on this. They do, in fact, pay off their student debt a little faster than normal, but they continue to contribute the maximum they can to their 401k, even without a match. But with a match, it makes it that much more valuable for your future. Next up, personal loans. Now, personal loans often fall into the same category as credit card loans. They're high interest. They are spent on something that you wouldn't ordinarily have spent your money on, either because it's an emergency or because it was a decision to go do something fun, and now you have to pay for that something fun. So personal loans, high interest rate personal loans, should be considered in the same category as credit card debt for most people. In other words, pay those off as fast as you can. So what about car loans? Well, a lot of people will pay cash for their cars. They'll buy their cars used, and they'll pay cash for them, and they won't get in the cycle of a car loan. But like your other debt, your car loan has an interest rate, and your interest rate is something you weigh against your other options. Most car loan interest rates right now are about 5%, and markets are returning more than that, but there's a lot more risk investing in the market than paying off your car loan, because that's a guaranteed return on paying off your car loan, whatever it is that you're paying on your car loan. So on car loans, most people take a hybrid approach on this as well. This seems sensible. Pay it off faster if you can, but don't lose out on putting money into the market, because in that instance, you could be losing out on 5 or 6 good years, because some car loans can go out 60, 72 months. I've seen them longer than that, really. Finally, the one that I've been waiting to talk about until the end, that's a mortgage. Now, this is such a polarizing topic, particularly with a lot of the viewers of this video, because a lot of them are thinking about or in retirement. So should you pay off your mortgage before investing in your retirement accounts? Probably not, because that mortgage is often 30 years. And people say, well, yes, but if I pay down my mortgage, I will be in a position where I can go into retirement debt-free. That's a great place to be, and don't get me wrong, it's something you want to achieve, but you can take your mortgage and pay it down more quickly. But most people don't understand something called the payment acceleration effect. Now, what is the payment acceleration effect? Well, basically, you've been told throughout your life that making one extra payment per year on your mortgage will cut several years off of the length of your mortgage. In fact, statistically, if you make one extra payment a year and your mortgage rate is somewhere between 4 and 6%, let's say 5%, then you're cutting about 5 years off of your mortgage. So on a 30-year mortgage, that's 17%. So you're paying 1/12 more per year, one extra mortgage payment a year, 1/12. That's 8.3% more. And you're getting 17% off of the final number of years on your mortgage payment. In that instance, you're coming out pretty far ahead by paying down your mortgage more quickly. But what almost nobody talks about is what's called the payment acceleration effect. And it works with a mortgage, it works with a personal loan, it works with a credit card, it works with any debt where you have a consistent regular payment. And that is, the front half is far more important than the back half in terms of reducing the time that you'll have that debt outstanding. Let me explain. In the first few years, most of your monthly payments go towards interest, not principal. That's why extra payments early pack such a punch. In fact, in the first few years, each additional payment can shave off roughly 4 months of payments from your mortgage. So you make one payment and you save 4 payments. Now in the middle, it starts to be less impactful. In the middle years, you put in one extra payment and you take off 2 payments. Near the end, the effect is almost even. You're basically prepaying the payments in the future, and it has almost a one-for-one effect. So you're not getting a big benefit there. So understanding how this effect works, it's supremely important for you to pay more down in the beginning years if you want to knock down the time your mortgage is in place. To be super clear here, it's not a good idea to focus all of your money on paying off your mortgage and not saving for retirement for 2 reasons. One, by the time you do pay off your house, you'll have 10, 15, 20 years of lost opportunity in the markets. And the second is that mortgage rates are pretty low. And if you got your mortgage before 2022, they're very low. And you can almost always do better by using the money that you're going to pay down your mortgage with and putting it even in something like riskless government bonds, notes, and treasury bills. But here's the overriding factor. People who are addicted to debt have a different set of problems than just which order to pay down their debt. They have a problem with spending. And this is one of the reasons why Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps program works so well, because it's very specific on what you need to do. And it doesn't explain all of the options to you, because someone who can't control their spending needs a very specific framework in order to make it out of debt. If you like this video, check out that video. Is a fully paid off home in retirement really worth it? This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.